Hello? Hi. Just filming a video. Okay. Love you. Bye. Hey guys, and welcome to my July wrap-up. As you can clearly see, I'm in a different location, and I'm probably going to be filming here for a while. The lighting works better because we have these big windows right in front of me, and I'm upstairs, so if the girls are not sleeping or they're doing something or watching a movie or Tim's home, they can kind of hang out downstairs while I film up here, and it's perfect because usually I was filming in the middle of the living room, which is like, that makes no sense for my life. So this is probably where I'm going to be for a while, and it will keep me making sure my bedroom is clean. I had actually full intentions on, before this video came up, filming and posting a video that had my entire experience documented the whole week of the BookTube-a-Thon, which I did participate in. And if you've seen it the past week or two, I did post a couple of the challenge videos for it to my channel, but nothing else. But it turns out that my computer cannot handle that much footage because I vlogged every single day, and it would end up being like a 45-minute long video, and I'm like, nobody wants to see that. And it was just me talking into the camera about how little I was reading that day, and then how much I hated a book, and then I was driving to work, and then I'd be driving home, and that was my entire video, all my videos, so decided against it. So this is going to be my whole entire month wrap up, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about the readathon in here, and then hopefully I'll get my life back together for August, which, holy crap, August. Okay, so altogether I read 8 books this month. I did 1 readathon, and I read a total of 2,552 pages. I had a pretty good month, I think. I gave 1 book a 2-star rating. I gave 2 books a 3-star rating, 3 books a 4-star rating, and I gave 2 books a 5-star rating. So I will go, as usual, in order of the star rating, and I'll guide you through my month and how I did. Here we go. Alrighty, so the lowest rating this month, and I'm already getting a lot of slack for it, like from Goodreads and people that I just talk to in real life. Lolita, I gave a 2 out of 5-star rating for. Lolita tells the story of a middle-aged man and his relationship with a 12-year-old girl. And it just wasn't for me, and I thought I would really like it, and it was kind of disappointed a little bit. I know that everyone loves Lolita because of the language, and I get it, the language is nice, it's pretty, it's like poetry, but I don't like poetry. I like when a book has great writing, but this was so dense for me. I could not get through it. Like, there was a little bit of plot in this book, but mostly it was just like stream of consciousness and this guy's thoughts, and like it was like wading through molasses. Like every page, first off, the type is very small, and then you can't just sort of absorb a sentence. Like, the sentences are so thick and dense, and I didn't enjoy it. Nothing happened, really. It felt boring, and I get that you can really enjoy a book with an interesting and unreliable narrator, but if nothing happens in the book, I just can't get into it. And I can appreciate a good book, a piece of literary fiction, and I've been getting so much crap for not liking Lolita, because I'm not intellectual enough, I just don't get it, and maybe I'm not, and maybe I don't. But at the end of the day, I did not really care for it. I gave it 2 because it had great language, and it had great writing, and the style was great. That's all that I could find about this book that was redeeming. Sorry. So the next book of the month that I read was Joyland by Stephen King, and this was another book for the BookTube-a-Thon that had yellow on the cover. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, and for me, it was just an okay book. I love Stephen King. I think he has great skill. I think he writes characters amazingly. He can really propel you through a plot. And it was the story of a young man who worked at a kind of carnival for a summer. And weird things happen. There's like a ghost story mystery. There's an old murder that's never been resolved, and so he kind of takes it upon himself to try to figure it out himself. So it wasn't the best thing he's ever written because it was more of a crime novel. It wasn't really like a thriller so much as he's usually written in the past. And I feel like if I was better at crime and kind of picking up on clues, I'm not really the best person to like pick up on clues and like figure out the mystery at the end of a book. I don't think I'm that careful of a reader. Sometimes I kind of get too excited and kind of skim past details. If I was a little more careful, I would have been able to see who done it like so much earlier, but I mean I didn't, so I mean what's that say about me? And it was fine. It was a good book, but I'm already kind of starting to forget some things about it, so it wasn't crazy memorable. But I mean, anything by Stephen King, I'm trying to work my way through his entire collection eventually, so I'm glad that I read it. Yeah. The next book this month I read was another 3-star rating, and that was Never Ever by Sarah Sadie. And this was the Bookbound Society's Book of the Month. It is an Instagram-based and Goodreads-based book club. So every month they choose a book, vote on it usually, and everyone reads it, discusses it on Goodreads, and that's that. I gave it a 3 out of 5. The cool thing about this book is that it is a Peter Pan retelling, and I didn't go into it knowing much more than it was a modern day Peter Pan retelling, and that's all it's advertised as. And that's what I really expected. I really expected it to be really, really aligned with the original plot of, the book or the film, whatever you want to go by, with a modern twist, and it just goes through the entire plot, and then it ends. In the first half of the book, it was really faithful, and then somewhere in the middle, it took a sharp left turn into Crazy Town, which I actually really liked. It was, I'm not going to get too many spoilers with it, but it became very, Lord of the Flies, and dark and surprising, which I totally dug because I was just fully prepared for a Peter Pan story, and halfway through, that's not what happened. And I didn't know this going into, but it is I don't know if it's gonna just have a sequel or a trilogy, but this is the first of a series. I do not like series usually, so I probably won't pick it up, and I'd be happy just to imagine this book ending the way that it ended. And that's basically it. The characters were pretty okay, generally pretty developed. They all had similar sounding names, like the names were similar to the original characters in the Peter Pan story, so you were able to really kind of identify who was who. So Wendy is Wiley, and she has 2 sons. Instead of Michael and John, it's Micah and Joshua. Tinkerbell was Tinka, but okay. And then Peter was Finn with a P. So everyone you can kind of identify, and there was like a Hook character. And yeah, it was kind of cool. I dug it. It was different. It was totally completely different than I wouldn't have picked up normally. So, and it's a pretty cool book. So that was good. I don't think I'm gonna read next month's book club pick. It's a little too. It's just not my genre, so I might skip August, and I'll try again maybe in September. So moving forward, I next gave Finders Keepers a 3.75 rating, but I rounded on Goodreads up to 4 because I thought it was really good. And this is the second book in the Mr. Mercedes trilogy. I read Mr. Mercedes maybe 2 months ago, and so this follows I think 2 years after those events. And there's a completely different timeline and different storyline, but they do connect. And I can already see how it's going to lead into the third and the final, which I have not picked up or bought or read or anything, which is end of watch. So this, I really, really enjoyed this because I've said before, Stephen King can write an amazing antagonist. I will say that it's hard for me to not compare to Mr. Mercedes just because it's the first book in the series, but he wrote Brady, the villain, in Mr. Mercedes, so bone-chillingly accurate and so disturbing. It was hard to compare him to the villain in this book, he just wasn't as bad, I don't think. I really can't even go into the details about what this book is about because it's pretty complex. Basically, an author in the very beginning of the book, years and years and years ago, I think in like the 70s or 80s, is murdered, and he's robbed completely of like money in his safe, and then like hundreds of handwritten manuscripts. And the man that murders him is like a mega fan, and he's been waiting to read. He wants to read all these manuscripts, but he wants to hide everything. He hides everything in a big hole, and comes back for it later with the plan to come back for it later. But then he gets arrested and for something else, and he's in jail, and he's in jail for like 20 years or something like that. Meanwhile, a kid happens upon the stash of money and filters it through his family anonymously because they're having a really hard time financially, and then he reads all the manuscripts. Basically, the man that killed the author gets out of jail, tracks down where these things were, and it's basically a fight to who gets these manuscripts because the kid wants to try to sell them. I don't know. It's pretty complicated. It's a pretty complicated script because it also has a lot to do with Mr. Mercedes. I will say the coolest part of this book was we're meant to believe that in the first book that the villain Brady dies, but he really ends up in a traumatic brain injury hospital, like a ward in a hospital. And it totally hints at the fact that after this head injury, he has these like telekinetic powers. Like very subtle things happen in the rooms when visitors come in that they're not really sure, did Peter Frame fall over on purpose, like what's going on, because he's completely a vegetable. But things kind of happen in his room that are kind of unexplained, and it kind of gets stronger throughout the book. So I think that is going to be a really, really strong player in End of Watch. So when I was reading that as the book was coming to a close, that was really getting me hyped. This is a series that I'm for sure going to finish, and maybe in a month or two I'm going to go ahead and finish End of Watch and the trilogy. Yay! Alright, so the next book that was a 4-star for me was surprisingly Confessed by Colleen Hoover. I actually read this right after I read Lolita, because I needed a simple book, I needed an easy book, I needed something that I wasn't going to spend 2 weeks trying to trudge through. And I know that she does NA, and I've read something of hers before, and the thing is, what I've experienced from Colleen Hoover in the past, I've just not liked. I don't get her. I don't get her like other people do. But I've heard a lot about, this is a good book, this is one of her better ones, and I like the fact that there's like, a touch of like art, and it's about an artist. And I was like, you know what? I found it at Barnes & Noble for $5, and I was like, I'm gonna buy it. I need something simple to read. And I was pleasantly surprised. Okay, okay, Colleen, I see you now. I see you, Colleen. All right, this is a good one. I appreciate this. Now, I will say, this book is not without its faults, because it read like a melodramatic Lifetime movie. I'm just gonna say it. But you know what? I'm someone that kind of happens to like melodramatic Lifetime movies. Like, the campier, the better. So, this kind of worked for me in a way. Definitely dramatic. Definitely, like, unrealistic. Especially because at one point they were talking about how many days have we actually spent together. It feels like forever. And one of them says, I think 4 or 5 days. And I'm like, holy hell. Like, their relationship is like, it's just like the genre. It got way too intense, way too fast. But I didn't hate it. I really like the fact that there's an art element, and that in the very middle of the book there are paintings that he's done. And there are some pretty nice ones too. So they're kind of in color, and they give you a better idea of, because there's little like thumbnail images in the actual book, but these are kind of more detailed. And they're really, really pretty. So one of the things that I did not really care for about this was, one, sometimes the writing, like I said, was a little cringy. It was a little cringy. There were some lines that I had to like, I couldn't restrain an eye roll. But I kind of looked past it because, whatever. It's not going to ruin my entire read of a book. But there were some really strong anti-feminist vibes in this book that kind of threw me off. Like, there was a lot of guys. There was two different, as usual, there were two guys kind of fighting over our female lead. And a lot of phrases about, like, she's mine, you're mine, he's not going to have you, you deserve me, I deserve you, tell me that you deserve me, and themes of, like, having to protect her, and having to guard over her, and having to, like, possess her. It was, like, it was a little too much at times, and I was reading it one time, like, just like, oh my god, like, this girl's become so vanilla and so bland. Why is anyone gonna fight over her? Like, why is anyone fighting over her? Like, I don't know. But that portion of it just sort of rubbed me the wrong way anytime there was, like, a discussion about how one of the guys, that's, you're my girl, you're mine. And I'm like, well, she's really not yours. She's a person. That aside, good twists, good surprises, scattered all throughout, things that I didn't catch up on. And that usually will do me pretty well if I can read a book that I can't catch the surprises. So, all right, Colleen, I see you. The next book that I have was a 4-star rating. I don't have it physically because it was a library book and I've already given it back, and it was Landline by Rainbow Rowell. Now, this is my very first Rainbow Rowell book. And you know what? I think I will read more. I know that 2 of her novels are YA, 2 of them are NA, and I think the one that I'm reading, or not so much new adult, it's just an adult book. There's adult characters. And Landline, I think, it's one of the adult books. The other one is Attachments. So, I thought it was really cool. I didn't know much about it when I went into it, but it's sort of about a couple who's like, it's a married couple, they're in their 30s or 40s, and they are kind of in a rough spot. He goes out of town with the kids, and she stays at home to work for the holiday, and there's this touch of, like, magical element in here, which I wasn't expecting. She pulls up from her room at her mom's house an old yellow landline telephone, and, you know, to call him on it. And I guess this yellow telephone contacts her husband in the past, like before they were married. And so she figures out that he is her husband in the past, and they sort of rekindle the relationship that way. And it's kind of predictable in a you can't change the past, you know, time travel kind of trope, because she has to decide, is there a way that I can, you know, just talk to him or communicate to him that's gonna fix our relationship, with, you know, adjust the foundations that our relationship was built on. Because I guess the week after this timeline that she's speaking to him in was when he proposed to her. So she doesn't know, is my talking to him going to affect the proposal? Do I want him to propose to me? Should I convince him not to propose to me? Should we have not even gotten married in the first place? And so it's kind of predictable in the way that you probably are going to imagine, you know, how it probably turned out. But that being aside, I thought it was really great. I thought the writing was totally fine, and it was funny, and I appreciate reading a book about someone that wasn't 21. Now we are going to the 2 5-star ratings, and unfortunately, once again, I don't have a physical copy of this book because it was a library book, but I finally read The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. Probably the only person alive that has not read it, and it was way better than I thought it was going to be. Now, I don't want to give spoilers because, you know, spoilers. But like I said, I'm pretty sure everyone's already read this book. But if you have read this book, I'm going to sort of give you what the big twist is at the end of the book. I knew that going into the book, because this book has been around for so long, and it's so widely read and understood. You're past the point of not telling spoilers. So I know what happens at the end of the book that wasn't seen through the whole first, you know, 60%. I knew it going into it, and I thought that would really tarnish my reading of the book, but it really didn't. Like, even though I knew what was going to happen at the end, I still really enjoyed it. And I'm not a crier. I don't cry at books, but I didn't cry at The Fault in Our Stars, but I did get that, like, tight, like, throat feeling more than once, rather than that burning eye sensation a few times. And mostly it was honestly due to, like, her discussing her illness and her cancer and her, you know, impending death with her parents. Being a parent now, all I'm thinking about is, if that were to happen to my kids, how would I react if in 10 or 15 years one of my kids has, like, terminal cancer, and how to cope with that as a family. And I think it was handled so beautifully. I'm so glad that I finally read it. And the last book that I read this month, oh my god, guys, The Cursed Child. Oh yes, It came out midnight, the evening of the 30th into the 31st. I read it again the day. I read it almost all night long. I had to go to work for the overnight shift, so I read it at work, and then I came home, fell asleep, woke up, and I finished reading it. And I mean, this is a 5-star book for me. I know there are plenty of people out there that did not like this, and I respect that opinion, and I hope that you respect my opinion. I thought this was fantastic. I loved, and I didn't go into this book with any expectations at all, because I went in saying it's probably not going to be the same. I'm not really going to have the same feelings, you know, but I want to support the franchise. I want to read it. I want to know what it's about. But I mean, I was a couple pages in and I was already geeking out. My opinions. I thought the characters were spot on. I thought they absolutely were canon. I thought the plot was compelling. My new favorite Harry Potter character is Scorpius. I never thought, I would not have guessed that. He is the next generation's Ron Weasley. He is funny and self-deprecating and humble. Sometimes Ron, you know, whatever. He's down to earth. He's honest. He is a good friend. He's loyal. He's like the best character in this show. And I mean, for those of you who don't know a whole lot about it, it is the published script of the show that is in West End. It is not a novel. It is a script. It has stage directions. It doesn't have passages of description. It has, you know, a name, colon, line of dialogue. Another name, colon, line of dialogue. And it took me no time at all to get over that formatting, because, I mean, I do plays, I read plays, I do live performances, so I'm able to kind of read the story in that way, and I got over that really quickly. And I don't want to go into all the details because I really do want to film a whole other video all about the Cursed Child, but I will say, and once again, I'm not going to give spoilers in this video, but when I do my Cursed Child video, I will be doing spoilers. I know the major complaint that people have been saying is that it feels very fan-fiction-y, and there is a couple moments where it does feel fan-fiction-y, and the big moment I totally saw coming. It was very obvious to me, but to me that still did not tarnish how much I loved this book. So, I personally, massive fan of The Cursed Child. It was hilarious. It was heartwarming. It was very sad. I didn't expect any of my feelings that I had when I read the original 7 books to resurface, but I felt like, you know, a 16-year-old kid all over again reading this. And so for me, I'm happy with it. I'm pleased with it, and it's what I wanted it to be. So I'm happy with The Cursed Child. Okay, guys, I'm losing light very slowly, and I'm about to wrap up, so that's great. So I will be filming an entire Cursed Child video sometime soon if you want to see that. And yeah, so I don't think I have any readathons planned for this month. I think I'm taking a break. I'll probably be doing another one in September, and I for sure will be doing one in October, but I will not be telling you about that until a little bit later on. So keep that on your radar. October, something's happening. All right, I will see you guys later. Thanks so much for watching. This is a long one. I'm sorry. Whew. I'm out of here, guys.